All right, we're gonna look at ceramic process. Ceramic process, I organize it into quick 6 steps, nice and easy steps. First, we're looking at internal cutback, the anatomical cutback, and I'm gonna show you the slides of how I do and what I pay attention to in green stage of a KATANA zirconia. And once they're centered properly, then we go into the next step, which is the internal staining technique, right? So we're using CZR paste stain to create that contrast effect. And once they're done, obviously we're gonna go into skin layer and some pink layers techniques. And once the layer is nicely baked out of oven, then you start doing grinding and separations, and also surface textures. I'm gonna show that. And finally, we're gonna go into external staining, also using CZR paste again. Then, in bonus to it, I'm gonna share with you my helpful tips on how I cement between superstructure, which is KATANA STML zirconia with the ceramic layers, into a titanium bar. So this slide is showing right out of my milling unit, and KATANA STML A2 18 millimeter was used. So once we cut out the spruce and we're able to put our human touch on the mamelon design, especially, we're able to utilize sharp carbide burrs or point burrs and start giving more characterizations on a green stage. And you clean nicely and you follow the proper firing cycle. My sintering cycle usually takes about 8 to 9 hours. And once they're done, now we're ready to go onto internal staining. So internal cutback is already done. They're cut back anatomically, and I'm basically utilizing between the tooth. I'm using chroma shades, utilize usually orange shades or A+ shades to create a little bit more separations between the tooth and create a little bit more life to it, a little bit more warmth on the body portions. On the incisal area, especially around the mamelon, I like to utilize grayish blue and sometimes even light gray. And towards the tip of a mamelon, I like to utilize a little bit of a value color to highlight those pinpoints. And also sometimes I like to utilize a little bit mixture of the 3-to-1 mixture of the value and an A+ to create a little bit more creamy vanilla color and to create that high value and low value, and we create the contrast effect. So we fired that, and once the internal staining is done, now we're finally ready to go on skin layer. I like to keep it really simple, so I basically almost utilize less than 6 porcelain, which is pretty simple for me. So internal structure, internal mamelon color already is done, so all I'm doing is the outer surface, right? So I'm using a little bit of LT porcelain towards the body. I like to utilize a little bit of LT1 and a little bit of LT0 on the middle, and towards the edge of a tooth I like to utilize a little bit of a creamy enamel to create a little bit of halo effect. Okay, now going into a pink, I like to utilize tissue 1, 3, and 7. Noritake CZR porcelain, especially the tissue porcelain, are beautiful porcelain. However, we like to make it a little bit more life-alike, right? And there's a darker side and there's a lighter side, right? So basically 1 is light, 3 is medium, and 7 is darker pink. So I like to utilize tissue 1 towards the neck of a tissue area, neck of a tooth area, and darker pink towards between the pupilla area and between the tooth area. So we kind of create that little bit more of a separation look. So once the buildup is ready, then they come out and we're ready to do a grind and polishing, right? So basically I'm creating at this point, I'm creating a little bit more of a separation using a diamond disc to create a little bit more separations. And towards the body, we're going through diamond burrs and creating the nice proper line angles and create some nice textures. And once I'm almost ready, then I go into ceramic rubber wheels and define those line angles to pop out a little bit more. And I'm using those silver paints to show more of a shape and contour so that I be able to really verify the proper line angles are created. So now we're finally onto an external stain. So I basically like to utilize a little bit more, a little bit of a value, a little bit of chroma to create a little bit more life alike. So for instance, for centrals, I like to create final look of A1, and lateral I kind of go A1.5. Towards the cuspid, I make a little bit more like A2, and it goes back to A1.5 towards the posteriors. Using a CZR external staining paste, it's really easy to do that, and it's really easy to control. So now I'm ready to show you my actual product, my actual results. So here's a full arch bridge as a superstructure. Note, STML Katana is only available if I'm using substructure as a titanium bar. So I have a printed model that's showing my substructure titanium bar design. And while the milling center is milling my titanium bar, copy mill my design, I'm able to create this STML Katana Zirconia. What I have done for the demonstration purpose, I have cut back number 8 through number 5 only on the facial aspect. Using a dental software, I have cut back 0.5 millimeter, and I have manually reduced to describe internal mamelon shape. And that shape becomes my color map, and we're basically using CZR paste stain to create the contrast game here. So low value on a more translucent area that we want to describe, and higher value where you want to point out. And towards the body and towards the proximal area, I'm able to put more sort of a plus stain, the chroma stain, to create a little bit more life into our restorations. So therefore we get to see more transitions, nice gradation. Even on top of nice katana gradation zirconia, we're able to create a little bit more contrast effect from body to the incisal, and especially from tooth level to the tissue level, so CJ line, utilizing CZR pink porcelain. Once my internal staining is done, then I'm now ready to do actual ceramic buildup. So at that point, I modify a little bit more of a pink porcelain, and mainly on a tooth portion, I use enamel such as a E2 porcelain, and I put some super luster LT or LT1 or LT0 porcelain, and maybe towards the edge I use a little bit of creamy enamel to create a little bit more opalescence look. I mean, not opalescence, what is it? Halo. Towards the edge, I apply a little bit of creamy enamel to mimic the halo look. And once the buildup is done, I do minor contour and do, once again, going back to CZR stain paste and do external. I could use clear glaze and maybe give a little bit more stains to highlight. And in that sense, when it's not cut back with the STML Katana Zirconia, we'll also be able to create reasonable aesthetic. So, this from number 9 through number 14, these were non-cutback stain only results. And once they're done, I basically use Kuraray Panavia V5 opaque cement and condition the titanium surface, and then ready to cement them once titanium bar comes back to my office. And once their cementing is done, I take it away from the model and I polish them and finish it off.
For more information about Katana Zirconia and other Noritake products, visit katanazirconia.com or kuraraynoritake.com. To purchase Katana discs, go to katanalabdirect.com.